Hey there. Welcome to the next session for the Global Ed Educational Training and Resources Professional Development. Today, we are going to dive into the world of virtual learning and learning management systems, which are also called LMS. Specifically, today, we will deal with Schoology. This is a virtual learning environment and a social networking service that is geared specifically for K through 12 schools and even higher educational institutions that allow users to actually create and manage and even share this academic content. Schoology is not necessarily a new environment. It was developed in May of 2009 by the CEO, Jeremy Friedman. And what this concept allows the users to do is to have a format to actually log in and to connect and to share resources throughout districts and with teachers, parents, and students within this environment of on online learning and remote learning. We need to know about these avenues in order to become more capable educators. So let's go ahead and get started with learning about it. I will take you through a guided tour on a professional development excursion in order to introduce and to clarify some information about effectively utilizing an LMS, specifically Schoology. Today, I am going to target on presenting to K through third grade instructors and exploring a virtual experience in remote learning and online learning, specifically sharing elements of the learning materials and how they're presented, the guided learning information, and specifically, we will review ways to add visuals and images, constructing profiles for the instructor and or images to highlight different activities. Additionally, we will go over the training of implementing course images as well as how to publish new folders and to construct a mind map of creating your lessons. Additionally, we will go over how to link and implement content and how to build and connect with students and parents and even other educators. Next, we will also go over how to make a meaningful and current and consistent style of online teaching. Then we will also look into course design and implementing and highlighting the different aspects that are on the toolbar. And moreover, we will go over how to construct an actual virtual classroom. So this will be quite intensive as far as what we'll go through in order to allow you a visual map and guide to becoming empathetic with your design and making sure that you are understanding that mindset. And additionally, we will look into the universal design of learning and specifically with keeping the goal in mind to have learner access and best practices, of course. And finally, we'll go through an area and a time of question and answers. Okay, the first step, now that you have access to actually seeing what the Schoology main frame or the page looks like, what everyone would see, you can see that at the toolbar, specifically on the far left, it starts with the courses. groups, resources, tools, and other applications, okay? So now let's specifically move into the area of learning materials. In general, we use these learning materials and the LMS systems in order to help enhance and administer documentation, tracking, reports, automation, and even delivering educational courses. Additionally, for example, today we're using the LMS as a professional development training and helping you to better program this learning and development experience. And hopefully, it'll help you gain resources to your academic and educational profession. Within the K and pre-K, even up to third grade levels of learning materials, we understand that there are several different areas to focus on. For example, math and science resources. What about printable access workbooks? And theme vocabulary books and reading and writing resources, songs, poems, nursery rhymes, alphabetical resources, phonics, and teacher resources, information on sight learning and sight words, more specifically, having resources of science projects, even clip art, even foreign languages. So we want to make sure that we make available to our educators that we know where to resource workbooks, children's books, pictures, making sure that you're using the appropriate visuals and specifically using the right size of the font and color attractions that are needed for true clarification to the activity or learning assignment. With that being said, today we will include the professional development training by giving you some avenues to make sure that you are constructing a guided learning tour where you can first access the main launching pad. Within this particular LMS, this is definitely student focused and parent focused in allowing the main launching pad to incorporate the parent's account. Therefore, we want to make sure that parents have access and knowing what's going on to make sure that the student is in line with the intention of the educator. Therefore, on this launching pad, we must keep information fresh and current by providing updates, adding images, and making sure that profile is up to date. Teachers, educators, make sure you are creating a user-friendly environment. We must keep in mind that the attention span of our young learners is very limited, especially on an online or remote platform. As we know, it is very crucial to find ways to create and increase our students' attention span. So we must really include this step by step as a strategy when we implement learning materials. For example, some of the ways that we need to utilize this strategy of increasing the attention span is by making sure we have a checklist. That checklist should include making sure that within this differentiated classroom, that first we include sustainable physical activities. Next, we need to include attention breaks. Thirdly, we need to make sure that we are adjusting our time frame, specifically in a multi classroom setting of different ages and or class levels. The fourth thing we need to make sure we are including are a plethora of visual distractions. Moreover, include games and that will increase memory. Another strong point is that we must rate and change, if needed, the tasks that have been given to our students. And the last seventh, we need to look at making sure that break tasks into various pieces. So let's go into this just a little bit deeper. We know that kids who struggle with attention do much better if they're given breaks in between the activities and what they're playing. So, starting with maybe 15-minute intervals of active play before a task, in making sure that our students have some time to kind of break up the day. So, include some physical activities. Next, we talked about these attention breaks. Well, we know that to teach a child um, what paying attention means really has to, um, we have to know clearly what this means and how that looks. So we need to make sure that we are training our children and their brain and the cognitive level to understand what attention actually looks like. That is so important for each of us. So let's make sure that we are including that in this plan and the mind mapping area. Additionally, we talked about within this adjusting some of these time frames. So, what that might look like is if a student can't necessarily stay on track, we might need to find times to break this content into smaller intervals, in pieces, smaller bites, if you will. And remember that our kids can concentrate on one task or two tasks up to 5 minutes or so. For example, if you have a classroom of six year olds, expect about maybe 15 minutes to 25 minutes of attention for your students. Don't try to overload what their capabilities are, especially in an online environment. Next, on number 4, we talked about doing our best to remove visual distractions. You know, of course, when we are looking at a screen, we all are experiencing this during this time of remote learning and or working. We need to understand that when a child is really struggling with a difficult task, clutter in a classroom can really be a distraction. And I know it might not be the ultimate experience when a child is at home, but we need to remove unnecessary clutter and make sure that the visual experience is coming from the specific workspace. So make sure that you give, parents need to make sure that they give their child fewer excuses of not focusing on the tasks at hand. Next, we're going to talk about playing games and using our memory. Memory isn't really, focusing on one thing and with this rote memorization. Memory games can really help to hone in and help the students focus in a way that is fun and learning by playing games within the classroom and making those really feasible within the particular level of teaching, if it's math or English, spelling, etc., we need to find ways to challenge students even outside of the classroom and giving them really a normal time to play and concentrate on these games. Adding memory games to the classroom, electronic games, etc., are ways to encourage and even reward this style of learning, even in the free time. Memory games really do, they don't really have, they don't have to be complicated at all. Even simple games of red light, green light, and making those into a little bit more practical or user friendly that focus on what's taking place within the learning environment. Additionally, number 6, we talk about rate and changing certain tasks. If you ever notice that a child is constantly avoiding work or it seems overly distracted, remember to take time to ask the child and to rate the level or challenges that we find in an activity just by simply asking them. Is on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you find this? 1 being extremely easy, 10 being extremely difficult. Make sure you're finding out this throughout the day to make sure that you need to know what that insight is to make sure that you find ways to help the student decrease his or her level of frustration. And finally, we move into this area of break tasks or breaking these tasks into small bite-sized chunks to make sure that they are learning and not struggling in silence. For example, have the child focus long enough to perform a part of the task and then take a break. Remember to come back in onto this project. It's okay to do that in this environment. Children with attention struggles may actually perform and really request tasks faster if they're struggling, or we need to find ways to simplify the activities to ensure that they're finishing the project. So remember always that some kids are going to really struggle with attention more than others, especially in a differentiated classroom environment. So, as instructors, we need to make sure that we take measures to really help improve our students to concentrate and to meet their needs and take a little extra thought on finding out ways to implement these learning strategies. So, again, make sure that we have this guided learning experience that um, including parents making this information clear, sending updates, adding images to make sure that we are including visuals, and then also have an explanation of the assignment in writing and a visual. And then, of course, teachers, again, we need to make sure that your profiles are in order. With that said, let's move on to a little bit more information on creating the ideal profile. Now, on this particular LMS, the profile is located under the drop down arrow where you can see um, where we can update your profile. You just simply need to go to the profile, it's on the right hand corner, and then you can edit that. Don't just add a badge, make sure that you are adding um, an actual photo, something that is going to be familiar to your students of who you are. Okay, make sure that you use a very friendly photo, and of course you can locate all of this information within the toolbar on the LMS. Additionally, include any other pertinent information. Include how special your child is and how excited you are in working with them, and that you are available. Again, this age group, they need to know that they're supported by the educator. We want to make sure that we are including this empathetic design and putting ourselves in the shoes of our student, and to really make sure that they are learning how to navigate effectively, and that their cognitive development is being supported to the best ways of the team, including the instructor, the student, and the parent. Within this remote or online virtual learning experience, we need to make sure that we are catering to the students that may be visual learners. There are the audible learners as well. There are the students, of course, that need that rote memorization to some extent. Some need to write it down. Some need to speak it. And we need to make sure that as the educators, we are utilizing all of these different capabilities. However, in this particular environment of virtual learning in LMS, we need to make sure that the visuals are really being utilized where we're building our content. And for those that are utilizing the Schoology, you need to make sure you're utilizing and keeping the CPS accounts current and up to date. Make sure that you are using new resources and adding additional articles and information to help support one another, but also share with the parents the importance of this virtual collaboration between the student, the instructor, and the parent. We need to make sure that we are building content appropriately. With that, on the actual landing page, of course, we need to specifically have an agenda. That agenda that we are working on needs to make sure that we are adding images to support the assignment. Also, we need to build new content. And thirdly, we need to make sure we are communicating and connecting with our students and with the parents in a timely manner. So make sure that you're using your tools that are very easily accessible on the Schoology platform, and you use this to help to support your learning objectives. Next, remember to add visuals to your updates. For example, create engaging experiences that are easy to navigate. The students need to make sure that they know where to go and where to find the information that you are requiring them to find. So make it very user friendly. For example, now just take a moment and let's just review some of these goals, okay? Let's go to each of you and get some input. For our review, the first question I'd like to present is, why is your profile important? Let's take a moment to discuss that. The next question is, why are the images needed for your students and the parents? Next, we're going to ask, where can the students find the ABCs of this LMS? The next question is, how do you change the course with regard to promoting images to make sure that that page of their classes are clear as to the math, English, PE, etc.? What do you suggest? And the fifth question, why are images important? Okay, so we're going to work in little small groups now and make sure that you pause now, and we're going to address this for your development. As educators, we have to be reminded of the importance of engaging our students, and the best way to do this are establishing tips and best practices. The way we engage in this primarily has to do with learning and professional development. Of course, effective teacher or professional development is really crucial for student success. So we need to understand that we need to engage in this development and make sure that we are staying relevant and making sure that we are learning new educational policies, learning from research and various um, collaboration with other educators that help our students. And understanding some of these best practices will help our students to really thrive, and understanding the importance of true education. Some of these practices that we need to understand and engage are the importance of online and virtual learning best practices, hybrid learning. What about blended learning activities? Of course, lesson engagement, collaboration, academic integrity. Remember that instructors are encouraged to take additional courses on leadership and or online instruction, and maybe of course Google for Education. That is really a hot item these days. Reviewing and understanding standards for online learning. Assessing and assessments are needed for online education and learning. And what about data driven instruction? What statistics saying, and how does that keep us on track of what our students need? And time management for instructors, as well as work and life balance. All of that is so important to engage in professional development. Educational tools, learning new systems, becoming proficient in these tools. So this is all part of who we are as educators, and it's so important for us to continue this process. Let's now go to the section on the toolbar for courses, just to go through a brief review on how to update and improve images, and making sure your information is fresh and current. So go to this section and, for example, blended learning, or the homeroom or English, whichever you would like. And then if you'd like to click that and add an image, and make sure that the images are colorful and clever and maybe funny. You want to make sure that these are something that will attract our students, and also make sure that they are also presented and updated in the parent resource folder as well. For example, resources for family and families at home. Make sure that all of this information is current. Another way of making sure that your particular um, platform and your learning objectives and activities are current. Pull from existing videos that you may have had or that have been shared with others, other instructors, and use or certain templates that you have there, and you can edit those and perhaps enhance the information that you have um, used before, and make sure you're using whatever those best practices are, and make sure that they are updated and again refreshed and relevant to your students' needs. Fourth, we want to look at ways of maybe adding others to your course. For example, if you have a colleague that you would like to add to share information with you simply go to members. That's on the left hand side of your screen. Just click on that information, follow the prompts, add the name, for example. This will really allow access to others to see your course and maybe to add some collaboration. So that's basically how you go through adding the different courses, course collaboration or individuals that you would want to collaborate with you. Fifth, we want to look at this is still under courses and course development. Number 5 here is posting updates. And with that, you would go to the area of materials. That's on the right hand side and of that tab, materials on the right there. You simply go through the process one of click and add the folder, add your assignment, whatever that assignment might be. For example, it can be an assignment, it can be a test or a quiz, assessments. You can add folders, links, external tools. You can add discussions. You can add media albums, different packages, and you can import resources. So all of this information is very important in respect to collaborating and making sure that you have the needed materials in place to make sure that your students' success is being done effectively. Additionally, make sure that you are utilizing the team and group project of the curriculum that you have within your department are using. Remember, become a member of the early childhood group. Make sure you are adding modules to your educational groups, that members that make sure you are a member of these groups and that you are involved in certain groups of, for example, early childhood group. You just remember to click and add any of the materials, and then you can export them out and or import and change any of the information that you see that is needed. Next, it's important to move into content building. And this is where you build and save the information and specifically updates, maybe the ones that you don't want to publish currently. And simply it's the going through the process of dragging and dropping materials into this particular file. This is your personal file that you can build and establish. So how you go about this is, number 1, you simply click on your update file folder at where it specifically says add materials first. Second, add the folder and of course select the name of the folder. And then if you would like to color code this, of course you might want to only use maybe something that's going to stand out specifically so you won't mistake that for another folder. Maybe you can just use this in white as far as that particular color so you can easily access that information. You simply then go down to the bottom once you've established this, added your material there for the updates that you don't want to publish. Go to the bottom of the page and you'll see that little drop down. It says first it says availability, and then you want to make sure you click on unpublished so you don't have everyone won't have access to this area that you're building and the creating of this process. After that, of course, you click create and make sure that you create and review to make sure the information is as you wanted it. If you want to add another page, a new page, let's quickly go through that. You're just simply going to go into that folder and add materials, and it'll say add a page. Um, you want to do this to make sure that the information that is being presented for you to get the meaningful accessibility for this. So you want to make sure that you click on the content that you want updated for your students and the parents. Okay, so this is why you want to create this new page, and you might add an image again for you to get the most use and meaningful kind of advertising for the page for your students and parents. Then you're going to make sure you add the page title, number one. Then you go to the updates and make sure updates not published, right? Add any visuals, add the title, for example. Next, you want to make sure that you click on that area and make sure that um, you have the information that you want itemized there. Even if you want to add, for example, I do have my own YouTube channel, and so oftentimes in my classes, I will add information where my students have access to information on my YouTube channel. So this might be a spot that you would want to type in that click here. You can add a link, for example, to add a YouTube video. This is definitely an area that I want to have a professional development session on how to create your own YouTube channel, your or my virtual channel, and I think that this is something that in today's society, educators really need this, and specifically use this as an avenue to help your students learn to navigate through media via the internet. So then, of course, you would just simply go through and cut and paste the um, URL for your video, and then you can just cut and paste it there. And once it's posted there under your image, then the parent or the student can simply click on that particular area. Remember, if you do add an image, if you have a mobile device, oftentimes some of the images may not show up on the mobile device. So make sure you add a notation that if the image does not show, click on the link. Okay, make sure you add these directions that are clear written instructions for the student and or parent to follow. Then make sure you paste this message to your student so they can visit and see any of the updates. There's so many new virtual links for you to learn from as instructors, or you can also share with parents resources and even students to watch. Teacher Talks is something on YouTube that is quite effective, and they do highlight CPS type of distinguished educators that have posted samples and actual virtual classrooms. Additionally, this is something that's been around for quite a while. The ABC mouse, for example, is a wonderful illustration of a more elaborate virtual classroom. But again, if ever you have a chance, I hope you have taken a chance to take a look at it. The ABC mouse is another trademark type of learning tool for kids that sometimes parents will use to help their kids learn. Additionally, you want to make sure that you're utilizing and implementing interactive slides. And we will go through this particular process to make sure that you are using your imagination to the fullest in order to attract the ways that you can service and teach your students. So, for example, you would just simply go to the adding a video or downloading the interactive slides, and first you'll just go to access number first a blank page. Secondly, you will then insert that page. And then you need to go to images, and then you can search the web next in order to start designing this virtual classroom. It's as simple as it is as simple as clicking and finding the item that you want. You might start with the classroom environment, the wall, the floor, the shapes of the information, and then you will just start implementing this onto this blank page. Make sure you resize the information that you do, or the image that you include, to make sure it fits that particular area. You can then next change the colors and the shapes, etc. Then you just keep going back and forth by inserting and searching the web for other items, other elements that you want in your virtual classroom. If you want a rug or a shelf or books, a flower pot, whatever you feel that you want, you can start adding onto your virtual page. You can also download a Bitmoji of yourself and implement that as well. And then finally, once you have designed it to your satisfaction, of course, you save all of your work, and then you save it, and you can save it in a file, this particular file, and then save as, and save it as a download, and share this with other um, individuals, and specifically the parents and the students, as to your learning implementation for the day. And it's very effective. Again, keep in mind that CPS has a blended learning training and support center that I would strongly suggest, since you do have access to this, in making sure that you have all of this updated information. And this is how you really make it truly effective, utilizing your learning management systems. And finally, I just want to make sure that you understand the concept of adding updates and or self recordings and our audio and visual. It's very simple. You'll just go to, of course, start a new page, page title, um, identify your, if it's going to be a video, a worksheet, post activities. You can save and post PDF files. And remember always to add this information to your parent accounts as well. Remember, the goal is to make, whether it's a PDF, a recorded audio or video presentation, you want to make it rich, fun, and detailed. And make sure you have your simple instructions as well. Because remember, mobile apps, they don't always allow images, or they might take too long to upload. So make sure you always add text as well. Finally, the area of adding that audio video recording is quite simple, so I really do encourage you to utilize that as much as possible. And then once you you have that, you can go to your Google Drive and then share that, save it on Google Drive, and then of course you can then get your link or address, and then you can just have that link address to your specific video so you can share with your students and parents. Keep in mind that this building structure is very important when you're using the style of your virtual classroom and or creating profiles, etc. So in final review, I want to just make sure of what we've learned today is throughout this training is specifically the ABCs of learning to develop your virtual learning environment, which is very, very crucial to online and remote learning. So we've learned quite a few things today. We've learned how to add visuals, add profiles and your image. Additionally, add course images, new pages, new folders. We've also learned how to link content and to build and connect with parents, with students, and with other educators in collaborating information. Additionally, we've learned how to make the learning environment meaningful and to make sure that it's always current and consistent. And finally, we've learned how to develop your own virtual classrooms and or PDF classrooms. So through this, we've learned basically creating these visual stories, visual maps, or guides to better communicate and connect with our students and within the environment of remote learning and the virtual classroom. Remember, in closing, to keep in mind that you should develop an empathetic design mindset, and additionally, the goal of utilizing universal design for learning and specifically the objectives of this learning access for best practices. Remember always to itemize the list of things that have been most successful for you in your learning career. Remember to engage and collaborate with others. Remember, don't struggle alone in silence. Reach out to others that can help you. Make sure that you remain the main resource for your students, that they can be most successful. And also make sure that you are always taking care of yourself and staying motivated in this process. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to allow Global Ed and our consulting projects and services to help you stay current on the needs of global learning and specifically tuning in and taking the time to be your best self. Thank you so much. I'm Dr. Kim Eagles, and now we'll have a question and answer session.